Hi, everybody, and welcome back to yet another cracking edition of The Matt Brown Show. This is the Secrets of Fail series, where we are talking to successful entrepreneurs and CEOs all about their epic business blunders. You know, the stuff they won't put on their LinkedIn timeline because, well, that just wouldn't be cool. And so with us in the hot seat today is none other than the man, the legend, who's out there in Asia somewhere, John Rankins. John Rankins is the founder and CEO of an amazing company called salesmachine.com. John, welcome to the show.
Hey, thanks for having me.
You're very welcome, mate. You're very welcome. So why don't you kick us off with the elevator pitch? What exactly are you up to there at Sales Machine?
Yeah, I help companies build sales systems to scale and increase performance and profitability.
Mm-hmm. Why do systems matter to you so much? Because I'm fascinated with systems myself, and I have a very clear reason why. But why do systems matter for you?
Yeah, because of my biggest failure of all time. Um, you know, in 2002, I built a sales team of about 800 people in Indonesia, and we were on a roll. We were making millions of dollars, uh, doing probably 10 million, 7 to 10 million consistently a year in sales. And it it all went away in one day, right? So I went from hero to absolute zero in one day because the director transferred all the assets out of our name and ran away with the money.
It's so funny. You're not the first guy I've had on the show that's had that exact same thing happen to them. It's really fascinating, and very curious to understand, what transpired from there.
Well, what was happening is, I was traveling around the world to learn, ironically, systems, and I was traveling the world with Tony Robbins. I was just left Fiji, and I came back to Indonesia, and I had planned to buy my mom a house. I mean, planned to buy myself a house uh, beside my mom's house, and I bought her a house, and so I went home and back to Indonesia at the time, and I let my director know that, look, I needed to transfer 800 grand to buy the land to build myself a house, and he's like, okay, but we have challenges with customs right now. We have this challenge, that challenge. So it was already a red flag, and I knew something was wrong.
Mm.
And I waited that night for him forever. And I said, okay, no worries. I just got back. I said, let's talk about it next week. And I waited that night for everybody to leave the office. I had already left, and I went to a hotel that was about a mile away. And once everybody had left the office, I went back, and then I broke into his office, which I owned. I owned the office, and I discovered a lot of counterfeit um, term deposits with holograms and stuff from my bank, uh, and just a whole set of evidence of him orchestrating eliminating me from the business and from Indonesia. I found letters where I was to be blacklisted. His brother-in-law worked at immigration, and I couldn't believe it. I was in absolute shock that this could happen to me. Like, how, total victim mindset. Like, I'm a great guy. I help everybody. I put people into business. I give everybody all this opportunity. But in that mindset, you know, uh, there's no progress. There's no moving forward. It's just victim and, trying to blame, anger, guilt. Um, but then when I came back down to earth and realized that, it all happened because I didn't have accountability systems in play. And I did have people in play for accountability amongst each other, but there was no automation. And therefore, the checks and balances at the banks and everything turned my entire world upside down. And I had to leave that country on a boat from a remote island just to go back to Singapore, set up a new company, set up a new work permit, because there was a blacklist letter. So if I would have left through the main airport, there's no way I could have came back to Indonesia. I still have the letter today to remind me that, that systems are powerful. You got to have them, right? And, when I was on that boat, it's a 45-minute ride. I literally broke down to the point where I was weeping about how bad I had failed. And the 7 years that I put in, $3.5 million was gone. All my assets were gone. My company was gone. And, and then I just woke up and realized, it's just all on me, bottom line. There's no one else. And I was in Indonesia by myself, right? There's no friends or family. I just set it all up. I made it all work. And so I started writing down, clarity, right? Clarifying where I was at right now, taking audit of, they stole all my money, but they didn't steal my ability, right? So in that moment, I created a system so that not only would this not happen to me anymore, but that I can share with others so it doesn't happen to them.
It's so interesting, right? I mean, so much I want to unpack with you there. But one of the things is, I do believe that, having spoken to CEOs in aggregate with, companies doing over $10 billion on this, just this series, which is only like 10% of all the conversations I've had to date, that many of them say things like, your breakdowns are always your breakthroughs. And that's what I'm hearing from you too, right?
Yeah, Tony Robbins says it better than anybody. And, you just have to have the mindset, if you want to succeed in life, that this is actually happening for me. It's not happening to me. Because it was devastating at that time, right? But from there, I went on to become more successful than I ever was before. And I earned a lot more money after that than I had before. But if it wouldn't have happened to me, I wouldn't have created systems so that I could scale my business, because it was basically me running the show, but managing 700-800 people, it was devastating to my health as well. I was working full days, and for me, a full day is 16, 18 hours, right? Where most people work, half days. They work 8 hours, and they expect to achieve, phenomenal results, working less and achieving more. So, I've read the 4-hour work week. Yeah. Nice try, but it didn't work for me.
But people love that shit, right? I mean, that book is still like bestseller in some categories, I'm sure, on Amazon somewhere, just because of the idea, right? And I do think, like, as entrepreneurs, in fact, as humans, we always have like part of our minds which are very idealistic. Well, what if we did work only 4 hours a week? What would that mean? What if I could make $1 million a year just working 4 hours a week?
Yeah, so that's the irony. So comfort is the enemy of success. And we all seek comfort. And a lot of people's definition of success is comfort. So financial freedom. Why? So that we can be comfortable, so that we can have more certainty, more security, take care of our friends and our family. But comfort is the enemy to success. Comfort can become the catalyst for all failure. So I don't like being completely comfortable. I think it's it's the beginning of the end, unless you have created systems like you talk about. The ultimate freedom is having systems so people know what to do, when to do it, and how to do it, and they have accountability. So this is why I created the sales machine, not initially for others, but to run my own company so that I can empower people. I don't want to be a policeman where I'm constantly finding what people are doing wrong. I don't want to be a fireman putting out fires all the time. I don't want to be a janitor cleaning up messes all the time. I want things systemized and automated so that I empower the people to know what to do, when to do it, and how to do it.
That's so funny. It's great to actually meet someone that talks about systems as passionately as I do. So I work with CEOs to help them scale their influence with systems. And what I always tell them is, like, you don't rise to the level of your goals. In other words, if you're doing $10 million a year and you want to get to 20, you don't just get there, right? Because if you did, we'd all be rich. The reality is we don't. And so we fall, right? We fall to the level of our systems. And so I'm a great believer in systems as well. And yeah, it's great to hear that you subscribe to that philosophy. But when you think about that experience, John, what do you now take forward with you into your business today in terms of key lessons or insights?
Everything is happening for me, not to me. And so I want that psychology in my business so that everybody understands whatever's happening in the marketplace is going to change. Whether it's COVID, a black swan event in the marketplace, nothing is ever going to stay the same, especially with AI. But as long as we understand that and we embrace it and know that this is happening for us, not to us, and we take a time out, like on that boat when I left Indonesia, that was a forced time out, right? Where I was forced to really look at my life and take an audit of where am I at right now and what has happened. How could this happen? How did I let this happen? Taking responsibility, right? Because I mean, I was on top of the world, man. I was about to build a $3 million house. I was earning over close to $2 million a year, and it's gone overnight. And initially, I just went into shock and awe. And then from the shock and awe, I went into blaming. But at the end of the day, the common denominator was I was still in that movie. It's still my life. So everything that happens had to be happening for me. So what am I going to take out of this experience and get better and build a system to where this doesn't happen again? And moving forward, what can I do to help others, my team, so that this doesn't not only happen to me, but other people? So that's just the psychology I have. And I always take a time out. I wrote a book called The Life Mastery Playbook. And I did this for my 5-year-old son because I grew up without a father, right? And in this thing, I talk about doing the transformational work rather than transactional and focusing on the things that are important every day. But every week, I stop and I take a time out and I audit what's working, what's not working, what can I do differently? What should I stop? What should I start? What should I streamline? Not just personally, but professionally, and empower my team with the same tools. Because we all got to be better, faster, more efficient, especially with AI. I would have set up systems from the beginning, and I would have gotten help, right? I'm a guy that, I used to believe or have a belief system that I was a self-made man, right? So taking accountability for that, I was also a self-made failure, right? And the reason why is because, I was hard-headed and thought that I could do it all on my own. So I traveled the world with Tony Robbins and I was seeking systems, but ultimately, I should have been surrounding myself with professionals that had expert experience and letting them do some of the work instead of me trying to do all of the work. Right. So I realized that, I'm only as good as my team and the systems that I have to empower that team. So that's exactly what I would have did differently.
And John, what is your advice to entrepreneurs or CEOs listening to us or watching us right now about the importance of failure or the process of failure in becoming successful in business?
First and foremost, you just have to document, this is happening for me, and what can I learn from this? What can I learn from this? And how can I use what I learned to implement moving forward? Because it's not just about what we learn. You hear so many people talk about, and if you look over here, I have a library here, I have a library in the back, I have a library in the office. You hear so many people talk about, well, I read 1,000 books. Yeah, you didn't implement shit. So I don't care. You read 1,000 books. What did you implement? What have you taken from that knowledge and actually implemented in your business as far as a framework, as far as a system? Because ultimately, you're only going to be as successful as the people that are working with you and with systems that are not only attainable, sustainable, but also scalable. So, when you can audit and look at what you're doing every single week and you manage, track, and measure the numbers, because people lie, numbers don't lie. When you can do that, then you can improve that. You can improve your systems, because systems should be evolving all the time, right?
Yeah, they absolutely have to, because things change. And I think that's the rub, right? And curious though, what about books? Obviously, you mentioned the library of stuff and, guys reading books but not implementing or whatever. But are there books, tools, or resources that you recommend entrepreneurs or other CEOs consume?
Yeah, I think Ray Dalio's got a great book, Principles.
Yeah, I've read that.
And he's an amazing man and opened my eyes. Never met him. I've met, a lot of famous people. I've never met him, but his success loop, I call it, his success loop is incorporated into what I give away for free, which is called the Ultimate Success Formula. Lots of people approach me to work with me, but I don't work with anybody unless they go through the Ultimate Success Formula framework. And that way it lets me know, are they going to work, or do they want me to just do the work? And I don't take on very many private clients anymore. I'm more focused on setting up systems for companies for sales that are sustainable. But Ray Dalio's success loop is in that Ultimate Success Formula. And the first step is clarity, right? But ultimately, we all have blind spots, right? So you talk about failures and you're the failure show, right, of CEOs. All of us who have failed, there's a reason why we failed. And in psychology, they call it the Johari window, which means you got a blind spot, like there's a spot behind your head. You have a blind spot. We all have blind spots, stuff that we don't see about even our own behavior that causes us to fail. And that's okay, because mistakes are good. Ray Dalio says it. So that blind spot allows you to fail. Now, if you don't learn from it, you never move into the ultimate success loop. What Ray Dalio says is the ultimate success loop. You never move into that and move forward, onward, and upward, which is what Buzz Lightyear said, right? That's right. I have kids. So you, instead of moving into this ultimate success loop, you go into what psychology calls a crazy eight. You go up, you go down. You go up, you go down. And you never get out of that crazy eight and move into the success loop. And so few people are aware of this. And I was unaware of all of these things. And so I've caught myself in a crazy eight so many times, making so many different mistakes over and over again and not breaking free. So that stops growth. So now I take a time out every week, and I realize, look, we're making the same mistakes over and over again. So the only way out is through. You've got to learn, you've got to make adjustments, and then when you improve, you move into Ray Dalio's lifestyle, which, he's a multi-billionaire, super successful. Because you got to get that right. You can read, the E-Myth. You can read, Peter Drucker's stuff. You can study all of these different people, but if you don't get your psychology right, it doesn't matter the methodology.
Yeah, it's 100% true. Just to double click on what you said, one of the things you said, which is, I do believe, like, if you think you have a problem in your business, you do. And it's really interesting to hear so much of what you said resonates with me personally, like recognizing that your breakdowns are always your breakthrough. Sometimes the only way out is through. Systems really matter, and it's all about mindset. And you have to start building systems from day one, like you said, right?
It's, if you want sustainable, scalable success, there's only one way, and that's systems. And it's got to be a living thing that's growing and improving all of the time. Otherwise, instead of being in a success loop, you're gonna enter a crazy eight, and you'll be eliminated. The marketplace will eliminate you. Look at look at what happened with COVID. It's really sad. So many people lost their businesses, and because they've never dealt with that kind of devastation, and they don't have the resourcefulness, right? The greatest resource in the world is resourcefulness, right? I thank God every day for my resourcefulness, not just my resources, but my resourcefulness, because, when those things happen, I pivot. I shut my business down for 6 weeks and then scaled it. I 3 times it in COVID, pivoting to other products, other services, helping other companies do it, and we had a great year. We had a record year in COVID, and a lot of other people did, but a lot of people got caught in the crazy eight and were devastated because it was truly a black swan event.
Well, John, I feel like I can talk to you for days, my friend, but unfortunately, that does conclude your time in the hot seat. I appreciate you for coming on the show, man, and for lending your perspective on the importance of failure and everything you've learned in that context. Well, some of what you've learned, I should say. Super excited to keep the conversation going. And also, I should say, wishing you and the team the very best of success.
Yeah, and I'd like to give you and your audience a gift, right? So we talked about the ultimate success formula.
Yeah.
If your audience goes to successmastery.com, they can go to successmastery.com/formula, and they can get that entire framework of the ultimate success formula for free.
Very, very cool. Very, very cool. John, thank you so much for coming on the show, brother. I appreciate your time. And chat to you again soon.
Yeah, look forward to it. Take care.
Cheers, everyone. See you again soon.